There we go. Oh, it always taunts me with starting on 400 every single time. Like, ooh, what if we had 420 kbs this whole stream this time? Flirts with me, I tell you, my kbs. Is it a good meme? Do you like it? Again, I came up with it very rapidly. Like 5 minutes ago, I realized we didn't have a meme for this one, and then I remembered this. I'd seen the meme template a moment ago, so I'm glad you all appreciate this meme. I'm very glad. Stream says yes on the meme. I shouldn't put so much effort into them. They're obviously better when they're what's the word? Spontaneous. Oh, no, yep. Everyone's piled in. Finally good. Ragwell says finally good content after the you-know-what, and I should let everybody know who isn't in the Discord. Recently, our Discord group did watch the Lord of the Rings films. However, during it, we were alerted by Raklos that there was also a script written by someone named John Borman, which was of the Lord of the Rings, for a film of the Lord of the Rings, which was written in 1970 something, and in this script, amongst many other things that happen in this script that are wild. But admittedly, it's definitely the most. It's the most iconic one bit of it that just blows your mind. It's that in the film, in the script, it's never made into a film, thank God. In the script, Galadriel and Frodo do have sex. They do. In the script, it is apparently it's on scene. Anyway, but the reason I'm letting everybody know this is because it might come up, because we're all still a bit jittery about it. We're all still a bit jittery about it. It may be mentioned, and so if ever we talk about John Borman, that's what we're talking about, just so that nobody is left out of what I assume will be quite a few jokes. John Borman, by the way, is still alive. He is still living, and he lives, and he's a multi-millionaire, and he lives in Ireland. So anyone, me and Cal, yes, me and Cal do live in the UK, so we might be planning something. And upon saying that, Kaz and Cal have both said, for now and not for long. So Peaches has also said, for legal reasons all of this is jokes. It's true. Honeybee, of course, Honeybee also is coming along. When I say coming along, I of course mean me, Honeybee and Cal are going to have a very peaceful trip to Ireland, for no particular reason. There will be no particular or definable reason for why we go to Ireland. It will be a very fun time for all three of us. Anyway, yes, so moving swiftly on, because I'm sure we will be mentioning this. Or at least the chat will be mentioning it. Says Tolkien's daughter being like, bring me the head of John Borman. I can imagine, actually, you're right, I think we should notify Priscilla of our perfectly legal trip to Ireland, because I feel like she would also be delighted by the concept and maybe join us potentially. She is 87. I'm sure she can make it. John Borman is about 80, and he still manages to do whatever it is he is doing at the moment. Oh dear, some people have come in the middle of this discussion, and oh dear, Lilith Hedgehog, hello. I'm glad. Sorry. Hello to everybody who has joined us, including 7 Stars, 7 Stones, and Lilith Hedgehog. I'm not going to repeat the explanations that I just had for that, but I'm sure you will understand later. In fact, Lilith Hedgehog, I think. Yes, actually, Lilith, maybe don't. Well, no. I don't know. Lilith Hedgehog has asked, is this traumatizing or rage-inducing? Yeah, yes is the answer. Yes. Peaches is right. We're not going... No. We have got to stop talking... Okay. I am going to stop talking about this. I am going to stop talking about this. The chat can do whatever they want. I am going to stop talking about this, and I will ask everybody how their days have been. Sans and... I will ask everybody how their days have been. And secretly a possum is here. Hello, lovely to have you in. Yes. How's everybody been? Please tell me how you've been. Please. I know Peaches was doing some very excellent and disturbing, excellently crafted, disturbing makeup that made him look like he had a bloody nose. But so that was cool. And then I think that's all I've heard. I know Rackloss has been doing unmentionable things. That makes it sound really weird. Rackloss has been going through the script. So yeah. Oh, Kaz just got his hobbit ears, and he's just waiting on the waistcoat. So, and I think that's because... Why is that? You're going to be cosplaying... Oh, wait, you were going to cosplay as a hobbit whilst doing something I can't remember. I'm so sorry, and my brain is a sieve. Secret Possum says their brother talked shit about them, but he used their pronouns while doing it, so... Excellent. Great. I guess that's a victory. That's a victory for you, Secret Possum. I wish it had been in a more pleasant discussion with your brother, but it's all good. Oh yes. 7 Star 7 Stone says, did lots of boring emails all day. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Well, that's good. Rackloss is attempting fan art of the script, which I didn't know, and is very concerning. Oh yes, that's right. Kaz was for the September the 22nd stream. He's going to be reading Concerning Hobbits on camera, so he's going to be a hobbit while doing it. Excellent. Well, that's good because the Concerning Hobbits section of this stream I forgot to record, so we so at least we'll have I can slot in Kaz's version and then I can steal it and put it in the beginning. But don't worry, I won't do that. Don't worry. I fully intend to reread the Concerning Hobbits part up until the bit which we get to in the first one, just so that it's a complete reading. I'll do that at the end after I've Kaz says he'll make it elf-loving just in case you cannot. There's no elves in Concerning Hobbits. Oh wait, there are fairies in Concerning Hobbits. I think. Rackloss asks, are we reading the appendices for real? Yes, we are. I mean, I'm not going to read you the lists of the timelines. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to read you the... I'm going to read you the like the readable parts of the appendices for sure. Well, I mean, admittedly, that's a question. Which parts of the appendices are readable? I mean, so the Arwen, Aragorn and Arwen, I will do. Prince of Caledor says he fought his uni and started a new playthrough in Satisfactory. I don't know what that is. Oh yes, I think I've heard of that game. And Honeybee says her dad's got her the complete Arthurian Tales by T.H. Waite. Oh, they're really good. I love that book. It's over 800 pages long. I'm excited, so that's my day. Yes, it is a great book. I love that book. That was my introduction to everything about like everything like deep about Arthurian legends, which is bad because it basically gets everything wrong. But T.H. White does it in such a funny way, and like the questing beast is so funny, and Galahad is it's a great version of those. So excellent. Des is here. Wonderful. We have Des in. Excellent. Excellent. We're just asking people how their days have been. Kaz says, so like Bungo is related to these people, and then these people. Oh yes, sorry. Kaz says he's telling me to describe the family trees, which he knows I will not do that. Rackloff says the info on the races at the end is readable. Yeah. All of the stuff which is in like readable sentences, not long bullet points. I will read those. I will read it all. I've committed. Today we have just a lot of Treebeard. It's just gonna be a lot of Treebeard. It's gonna be a very peaceful stream, which is good because that is what we need after the Lord of the Rings themed week we've had. But yeah, it just goes on for pages and pages, and of course I'm going to be reading it very slowly. So it's gonna be mostly this. It's gonna be mostly Treebeard, which is great, which is just very good. And we do have a song, but not sung by me. I've got a better version because as much as I'm going to do Treebeard's voice all the way through, I cannot sing in Treebeard's voice, so we're going to get John Inglis from the audiobook to sing us the Entwives song. Oh, Lilith Hedgehog missed the last stream, so they're really looking forward to hearing Treebeard's voice. Well, excellent. Yes, everyone really liked Treebeard's voice. My throat was the only one who complained about Treebeard's voice, but even I actually quite liked it. So I have lots of water. Admittedly, I didn't think to make myself some kind of honey lemon tea of any kind, but we'll just start as we mean to go on, I guess. Yeah. What did I do today? Oh, nothing. Oh, I didn't do anything today. Oh, I was very sleepy today. Never mind. Good. Oh well, I did a bit of paddling. I think that's why I'm sleepy. Which is the point. I am quite sleepy tonight, so also good for a Treebeard stream. I'm in the right frame of mind. Okay. Well, we've got up to our 10 viewers, which is the usual amount now. Since we stopped reading, since we switched to the Two Towers over the Fellowship. So I guess people got to Boromir's death and then we're similarly to me, we're like, well, I don't think I'll continue with this story anymore. Oh dear. Oh dear. Dear, oh dear. Okay. Alright. Oh, let's get started. So where did we end particularly last time? Because we'd recited the poem. No, I think we just got to the end of the poem, didn't we? Alright then. Yeah, okay. Oh, thank you, Honeybee, for the confirmation that was needed. Alright. Just fill up the water again. Okay. 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 Right. The day waned, and dusk was twined about the boles of the trees. At last the hobbits saw, rising dimly before them, a steep, dark land. They had come to the feet of the mountains, and to the green roots of tall Methredas. Is that how you... I think Methredras, sorry, I keep getting that wrong. Down the hillside, the young Entwash leapt from its springs high above, ran noisily from step to step to meet them. Leaping from its springs high above, ran noisily from step to step to meet them. On the right of the stream there was a long slope, clad with grass, now grey in the twilight. No trees grew there, and it was open to the sky. Stars were shining already in lakes between shores of cloud. Treebeard strode up the slope, hardly slackening his pace. Suddenly, before them, the hobbits saw a wide opening. 2 great trees stood there, one on either side, like living gateposts. Ha! I remembered! I remembered! Ha! Excellent. Okay. 2 great trees stood there, one on either side, like living gateposts. But there was no gate, save their crossing and interwoven boughs. As the old Ent approached, the trees lifted up their branches, and all their leaves quivered and rustled, for they were evergreen trees, and their leaves were dark and polished, and gleamed in the twilight. Beyond them was a wide level space, as though the floor of a great hall had been cut in the side of the hill. On either hand the walls sloped upwards until they were 50 feet high or more, and along each wall stood an aisle of trees that also increased in height as they marched inwards. At the far end the rock wall was sheer, but at the bottom it had been hollowed back into a shallow bay with an arched roof, the only roof of the hall, save the branches of the trees, which at the inner end overshadowed all the ground, leaving only a broad open path in the middle. A little stream escaped from the springs above, and leaving the main water, fell tinkling down the sheer face of the wall, pouring in silver drops like a fine curtain in front of the arched bay. The water was gathered again into a stone basin in the floor between the trees, and thence it spilled and flowed away beside the open path, out to rejoin the Entwash in its journey through the forest. Oh, that's... Okay. How did I do Treebeard last time? Oh shit. How low can you go? Here we are, said Treebeard, breaking his long silence. I have brought you about 70,000 Ent strides, but what that comes to in the measurement of your land I do not know. Anyhow, we are near the roots of the last mountain. Part of the name of the place might be Wellinghall, if it were turned into your language. I like it. We may stay here tonight. He set them down on the grass between the aisles of the trees, and they followed him towards the great arch. The hobbits now noticed that as he walked, his knees hardly bent, but his legs opened in a great stride. He planted his big toes, and they were indeed big and very broad, on the ground first, before any other part of his feet. Kind of waiting for Rakros to mention that Ents have toes, but we're going to keep going. For a moment, Treebeard stood under the rain of the falling spring, and took a deep breath. Then he laughed, and passed inside. A great stone table stood there, but no chairs. At the back of the bay, it was already quite dark. At the back of the bay it was already quite dark. Treebeard lifted 2 great vessels and stood them on the table. They seemed to be filled with water, but he held his hands over them, and immediately they began to glow, one with a golden and the other with a rich green light. And the blending of the 2 lights lit the bay, as if the sun of summer was shining through the roof of young leaves. Looking back, the hobbits saw that the trees in the court had also begun to glow, faintly at first, but steadily quickening until every leaf was edged with light, some green, some gold, some red as copper, while the tree trunks looked like pillars moulded out of luminous stone.
Well, now we can talk again,
said Treebeard.
You are thirsty, I expect. Perhaps you are also tired? Oh, drink this.
He went to the back of the bay, and then they saw that several tall stone jars stood there, with heavy lids. He removed one of the lids and dipped in a great ladle, and with it filled 3 bowls, 1 very large bowl and 2 smaller ones. I'm not going to read what's going on in the chat just yet. Very funny though.
Well, this is an Ent house, he said. There are no seats, I fear. But you may sit on the table.
Picking up the hobbits, he set them on the great stone slab, 6 feet above the ground, and there they sat, dangling their legs and drinking in sips. The drink was like water, indeed very like the taste of the draughts they had drunk from the Entwash near the borders of the forest, and yet there was some scent or savour in it, which they could not describe. It was faint, but it reminded them of the smell of a distant wood, borne from afar by a cool breeze at night. The effect of the draught began at their toes and rose steadily through every limb, bringing refreshment and vigour as it coursed upwards, right to the tips of their hair. Indeed, the hobbits felt that the hair on their heads was actually standing up, and waving and curling and growing. As for Treebeard, he first laved his feet in the basin beyond the arch, and then he drained his bowl at one draught, one long, slow draught. The hobbits thought he would never stop. At last he set the bowl down again.
Oh,
he said.
Well, now we can talk easier. You can sit on the floor, and I will lie down. That will prevent this drink from rising to my head and sending me to sleep.
On the right side of the bay there was a great bed on low legs. Now, so that doesn't seem particularly. It's a little odd because you would think that if he lay down, the water would just flow to his head anyway. But all I can think about is xylem and phloem and the active transportation and how water is pulled up the xylem by surface tension and stuff. And I guess that would still work if he was sideways though. So anyway, that's just me being a nerd. On the right side of the bay there was a great bed on low legs, not more than a couple of feet high, covered deep in dry grass and bracken. Treebeard lowered himself slowly onto this, with only the slightest sign of bending at his middle, until he lay at full length with his arms behind his head, looking up at the ceiling, upon which lights were flickering, like the play of leaves in the sunshine. Merry and Pippin sat beside him on pillows of grass.
Oh, now tell me your tale, and do not hurry,
said Treebeard. The hobbits began to tell him the story of their adventures ever since they left Hobbiton. Oh, thank you. They, they followed no clear order. Sorry, they followed no very clear order, but they interrupted one another continually, and Trebeard often stopped the speaker and went back to some earlier point, or jumped forward asking questions about later events. They said nothing whatever about the ring, and did not tell him why they set out or where they were going to, and he did not ask any question. He did not ask for any reasons. He was immensely interested in everything, in the Black Riders, in Elrond and Rivendell, in the Old Forest and Tom Bombadil, in the mines of Moria and in Lothlorien and Galadriel. He made them describe the Shire and its lost country over and over again. He said an odd thing at this point.
"Well, never see any ants round there, do you?" he asked. "Well, not ants. And why, I should really say."
"And why?" said Pippin. "Are they like you at all?"
"Oh, yes. Well, no. Well, I do not really know now," said Trebeard thoughtfully. "But they would like your country, and I just wondered."
Trebeard was, however, especially interested in everything that concerned Gandalf, and was most interested of all in Saruman's doings. The hobbits regretted very much that they knew so little about them, only a rather vague report by Sam of what Gandalf had told the council, but they were clear at any rate that Ugluk and his troop came from Isengard, and spoke of Saruman as their master.
"Oh,"
said Trebeard, when at last their story had wound and wandered down to the battle of the Orcs and the Riders of Rohan.
Well, that is a bundle of news, and no mistake. You have not told me all. No, indeed, not by a long way. But I do not doubt that you are doing as Gandalf would wish. There is something very big going on, that I can see, and what it is, maybe I shall learn in good time, or in bad time. I root and twig, but it is a strange business. Up sprout a little folk that are not as on the old lists, and behold, the 9 forgotten riders appear to hunt them, and Gandalf takes them on a great journey, and Galadriel harbours them in Caras Galadhon, and orcs pursue them down all the leagues of Wilderland. Indeed, they seem to be caught up in a very great storm. Well, I hope they wither it."
And what about yourself?" asked Merry.
"But I am not troubled about the great wars," said Trebeard. "They mostly concern elves and men. That is the business of wizards. Wizards are always troubled about the future. I do not like worrying about the future. I'm not altogether on anybody's side, because nobody is altogether on my side. You understand me? Nobody cares for the woods as I care for them. Not even elves nowadays. Still, I take more kindly to elves than to others. It was elves that cured us of dumbness long ago, and that was a great gift that cannot be forgotten, though our ways have parted since. And there are some things, of course, whose side I am altogether not on. I am against them altogether. These
He again made a deep rumble of disgust.
These orcs, they're masters.
Need to sit up for this voice.
I used to be anxious about... Sorry. I used to be anxious when the shadow lay on Mirkwood, but when it removed to Mordor, I did not trouble for a while. Mordor is a long way away. But it seems that the wind is setting east, and the withering woods may be drawing near. There is naught an old Ent can do to hold back that storm. But he must weather it, or crack. But Saruman now, Saruman is a neighbour. I cannot overlook him, and I must do something, I suppose. I have often wondered lately what I should do about Saruman.
Who is Saruman? Asked Pippin. Do you know anything about his history?
Well, Saruman is a wizard, answered Treebeard. More than that I cannot say. I do not know the history of wizards. They appeared after the great ships came over the sea. But if they came with the ships, I can never tell. Saruman was reckoned great among them, I believe. He gave up wandering about and minding the affairs of men and elves some time ago. You would call it a very long time ago. And he settled down at Angranost, or Isengard, as the men of Rohan call it. He was very quiet to begin with, but his fame began to grow. He was chosen to be the head of the White Council, they say, but that did not turn out too well. I wonder now if even then Saruman was not turning to evil ways. But at any rate he used to give no trouble to his neighbours. I used to talk to him. There was a time when he was always walking about my woods. He was polite in those days, always asking my leave, at least when he met me, and was eager to listen. I told him many things that he would never have found out by himself, but he never repaid me in like kind. I cannot remember that he ever told me anything, and he got more and more like that. His face, as I remember it, I have not seen it for many a day, became like windows in a stone wall, windows with shutters inside. I think that now I understand what he is up to. He's plotting to become a power. He has a mind of metal and wheels, and he does not care for growing things, except as far as they can serve him for the moment. And now it is clear that he is a black traitor. He has taken up with foul folk, with the orcs. Worse than that, he has been doing something to them, something dangerous, for these Isengarders are more like wicked men. It is a mark of evil things that came in the great darkness, that they cannot abide the sun, but Saruman's orcs can endure it. even as they hate it. I wonder what he has done. Are they men he has ruined? Or has he blended the races of orcs and men? That would be black evil.
Treebeard rumbled for a moment, as if he were pronouncing some deep, subterranean entish malediction. I have to drink some water. Oh, was there buffering? Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's have a pause to rest my poor voice after that. This just goes on and on. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Just so much of this voice. I might have to tone down this voice. I may have to turn down this voice. Yes, welcome in Prince Imrahil. Yes, you really haven't missed much. We're still on Treebeard. In fact, because I frown while I'm doing the Treebeard voice because it just seems appropriate to be frowning. My eyebrows are like aching because I've been frowning for such a long, for half an hour. I'm trying not to make him sound too much like Gandalf, but it seems I'm just very partial to Gandalf's voice. Ugh. 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 Put my glasses back on so I can read what y'all are up to. Yes, Peaches says it's the nice thing about the Treebeard chapters is that they move slow enough so that if you're late, you haven't missed too much. Yes, it's true. We're still talking about. Okay, let's try a little bit. Let's try and speed this up. Not speed it up, but just make it a bit easier for me to do. Is the buffering gone? Buffering all good again? Ooh, and let's test the lag. If I say now, tell me when you hear the now. Shame I couldn't. It would have taken too long to cut this whole Rohan bit to just the Fangorn part, but I can't quite. I don't think I can fast forward it to the Rohan part. Oh, well, this bit is nice because the stars are so lovely in Rohan. I'm glad you all like the voice that much. I will try very hard to keep it going. Oh, but we're quite far behind each other. That's a shame. That's a shame. We had a bit of buffering, and so we're quite far behind each other. Never mind. I'm sure we'll work through it. We'll manage. If you've only just gotten to that bit. Yeah, okay. So we're about a minute. We're about a minute behind each other. But never mind. Minute is doable. Thank you very much for all of your nows. It's excellent, excellent help. Okay. It's also, the voice like vibrates my nose more than usual, so my nose is all tingling. Oh, I think literally one of the main and only reasons I want to do a dose on testosterone for a period would be to lower my voice. And it's not entirely because I want to be able to voice the male characters properly, but it would be an added benefit, certainly. No worries, Peaches. I'm very sorry that you that you've had that your syndrome is. I keep using that word. It's my favorite way of describing it. But yeah, I'm very sorry. But no worries. Have a good day, and if you manage to come back, and we'll happy to have you. But never mind. Right. Okay. Any thoughts about it? I mean, we are to the point where we've finally come to have to talk about the fact that it's interesting that Treebeard makes it out like Saruman, if he wanted to, he could literally take men and then, as Treebeard likes to say, ruin them. Which is an interesting possibility that he seems to believe is something that could happen. But yeah, when he says the blending of the races of orcs and men, there really is only one unfortunate and dreadful conclusion that we can draw about that, which is unfortunate. Yes. I also like that. I like that Treebeard. I like that Treebeard can that he's interested in everything. It's very sweet. He's like sitting there and asking them all about this stuff, and he's interested in all of their like the whole journey, and he thinks it's all very cool, and it's very sweet. It's very sweet that Treebeard, like, you get this idea that Treebeard doesn't really care about anything else but trees, but apparently that's just not true. He likes stories and stuff that's going on. It's just he doesn't feel the need to really interfere in them. He wants to know about them though, which is very sweet. I like that. I also quite like that Pippin has gotten this far and without really knowing who Saruman is. He's not dumb, he just doesn't put that much effort into research before he leaves. Now, muscle in my cheek is also this voice is just destroying my whole face, but never mind, we'll keep going. Okay. Treebeard rumbled for a moment, as if he were pronouncing some deep, subterranean Entish malediction.
Some time ago, I began to wonder how orcs dared to pass through my woods so freely, he went on. Only lately did I guess that Saruman was to blame. That was long ago. He had been spying out all the ways and discovering my secrets. He and his foul folk are making havoc now. Down on the borders they are felling trees. Good trees. Some of the trees they just cut down and leave to rot. Orc mischief, that. But most are hewn up and carried off to feed the fires of Orthanc. There is always a smoke rising from Isengard these days. Curse him, root and branch. Most of those trees were my friends, creatures I had known from nut and acorn. Many had voices of their own that are now lost forever, and there are wastes of stumps and bramble where once there were singing groves. I have been idle, I have let things slip. It must stop.
Treebeard raised himself from his bed with a jerk, stood up, and thumped his hand on the table. The vessels of light trembled and sent up 2 jets of flame. Oh my goodness. There was a flicker like green fire in his eyes, and his beard stood out stiff as a great besom. Besom. I'm not entirely sure what a besom is.
"And I will stop it," he boomed. "No, and you shall come with me. You may be able to help me. You will be helping your own friends that way too, for if Saruman is not checked, Rohan and Gondor will have an enemy behind as well as in front. Our roads go together. To Isengard."
"Oh, we will come with you," said Merry. "We will do what we can." "Oh yes," said Pippin. "I should like to see the White Hand overthrown. I should like to be there, even if I could not be of much use. I shall never forget Ugluk and the crossing of Rohan."
"Good, good," said Treebeard. "Oh, but I spoke hastily. We must not be hasty. I have become too hot. I must cool myself and think, for it is easier to shout stop than to do it."
He strode to the archway and stood for some time under the falling rain of the spring. Then he laughed and shook himself, and wherever the drops of water fell, glittering from him to the ground, they glinted like red and green sparks. He came back and laid himself on the bed again, and was silent. Oh my goodness, did we have a... I missed... My moderator did such a good job that I completely missed the bot that we had. Ah. Is a besom a broom? Is that what it is? Oh, I see. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yep, I know what it is now. Secretly, Opossum says Treebeard is like that one friend who lets you info dump. He super is. He apparently is a great listener. Wonderful. It's very, very excellent. Which is good for Barry, because he really does want to info dump a lot. But yes, superb. I also quite like the way Treebeard is just like casually magical. Like you know, you have the elves and they do all their magic, like it's all suffused around them and whatever, and then Treebeard is like, nope, I'm going to create light now, and also now I'm going to create fire randomly because I'm angry. I don't give a shit. Magic everywhere. It's all the same to me. Do like that. Okay. After some time, the hobbits heard him murmuring again. He seemed to be counting on his fingers.
Fangorn, Finglass, Flagriff, nothing. He sighed. The trouble is, there are so few of us left,
he said, turning towards the hobbits.
Only 3 of the first Ents that walked in the woods before the darkness. Only myself, Fangorn, and Finglass, and Fladriff, to give them their elvish names. You may call them Leaflock and Skinbark if you like that better. And of us 3, Leaflock and Skinbark are not much use for this business. Leaflock has grown sleepy, almost treeish, you might say. He has taken to standing by himself, half asleep all through the summer, with the deep grass of the meadows around his knees. Covered with leafy hair he is. He used to rouse up in winter, but of late he has been too drowsy to walk far, even then. Skinbark lived on the mountain slopes west of Isengard. That is where the worst trouble has been. He was wounded by the orcs, and many of his folk and his tree herds have been murdered and destroyed. He has gone up into the high places among the birches that he loves best, and he will not come down. Still, I dare say I could get together a fair company of our younger folks, if I could make them understand the need, if I could rouse them. We are not a hasty folk. What a pity there are so few of us.
Why are there so few of you? When you have lived in this country for so long, asked Pippin, have a great many died?
Oh, no, said Treebeard. Oh, none have died from inside, as you might say. Oh, some have fallen in the evil chances and the long years of course, and more have grown tree-ish. But there were never many of us, and we have not increased. Oh, there have been no endings, no children, you would say, for a terrible long count of years. Oh, you see, we lost the Entwives.
Oh, how very sad, said Pippin. How was it that they all died?
No, they did not die, said Treebeard. I never said died. We lost them, I said. We lost them. We cannot find them.
He sighed.
I thought most folk knew that. There were songs about the hunt of the Ents for the Entwives sung among elves and men from Mirkwood to Gondor. They cannot be quite forgotten.
Well, I'm afraid the songs have not come west over the mountains to the Shire, said Mary. Won't you tell us some more, or sing us one of the songs?
Yes, I will indeed, said Treebeard,
seeming pleased with the request.
But I cannot tell it properly, only in short. Then we must end our talk. Tomorrow we have councils to call and work to do, and maybe a journey to begin.
Oh. Oh. It looks so bad. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Admittedly, there's a little bit less talking in the Damn it! There's another song. No. Oh, I knew there should. Oh, I knew I should have looked in here before. There's another song. Oh dear. I'm so sorry, Quick Beam. Never mind. Okay.
Oh, it is a rather strange and sad story,
He went on after a pause.
When the world was young and the woods were wide and wild, the Ents and the Entwives, and there were Ent maidens then. The loveliness of thin-breasted, of wan-limbed, the light-footed. In those days of our youth, they walked together and they housed together, but our hearts did not go on growing in the same way. The Ents gave their love to things that they met in the world, and the Entwives gave their thoughts to other things, for the Ents loved the great trees, and the wild woods, and the slopes of the high hills, and they drank of the mountain streams, and they ate only such fruit as the trees let fall in their path, and they learned of the elves and spoke with trees. But the Entwives gave their minds to the lesser trees, and to the meads and sunshine beyond the feet of the forests, and they saw the sloe in the thicket, and the wild apple and the cherry blossoming in spring, and the green herbs in the waterlands in summer, and the seeding grasses in the autumn fields. Well, they did not desire to speak with these things, but they wished them to hear and obey what was said to them. The Entwives ordered them to grow according to their wishes, and bear fruit and leaf to their liking. For the Entwives desired order and plenty and peace, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them. So the Entwives made gardens to live in. But we Ents went on wandering, and we only came to the gardens now and again. Then, when the darkness came in the north, the Entwives crossed the great river and made new gardens and tilled new fields, and we saw them more seldom. After the darkness was overthrown, and the land of the Entwives blossomed richly, and their fields were full of corn. Many men learned the crafts of the Entwives and honoured them greatly, but we only were a legend to them, a secret in the heart of the forest. Yet here we still are, while all the gardens of the Entwives are wasted. Men call them the Brown Lands now.
Oh my god. Ah. Entings is such a cute name. It's very sweet. Prince of Imrahil says losing the Entwives is very sad and funny at the same time. Well, the reason is because they just... Well, I mean, because realistically speaking it's not, because the reason they've lost them is because they're probably all dead. But to Treebeard, he's very determined that they just have been lost. They just can't find them. And that is objectively funny. It's objectively funny to say, we just lost all the women. We just lost all of them. We don't know where they are. It's objectively funny. Ragnos says, wouldn't it be interesting if they lost the men instead, since the dwarves have an issue with women? I know. And then they say the Entwives were ungrateful and agriculture is bad. Yes, I know. It's very heavy-handed. It's very heavy-handed. Yes. Yes. Anyway, let's continue. Ugh.
Well, I remember it was long ago in the time of the war between Sauron and the men of the sea. Desire came over me to see Fimbrethy again. Very fair she was still in my eyes when I had last seen her, though little like the Ent maiden of old. For the Entwives were bent and ground by their labour, their hair parched by the sun to the hue of ripe corn, and their cheeks were like red apples, yet their eyes were still the eyes of our own people. We crossed over the Anduin and came to their land, but we found only a desert. It was all burned and uprooted, for war had passed over it, but the Entwise were not there. Long we called, and long we searched, and we asked all folk that we met which way the Entwise had gone. Some said they had never seen them, and some said that they had seen them walking away west, and some said east, and others south. But nowhere that we went could we find them. Our sorrow was very great. Yet the wildwood called, and we returned to it.
There's just a bit where, there is just a bit where Treebeard's just like full on horny. Like, it's not even, it's not, it's just, he's just horny. It's just talking about it like, it's really, oh dear. Never mind. He's allowed. Couldn't have felt it sounds lovely. Yeah.
For many, many years we used to go out every now and again and look for the Entwise, walking far and wide and calling them by their beautiful names. But as time passed, we went more seldom and wandered less far, and now the Entwise are only a memory for us, and our beards are long and grey. The elves made many songs concerning the search of the Ents, and some of the songs passed into the tongues of men.
I do have to also pause and just take a moment to think about the concept of just a few normal human beings wandering around in Rohan, some of the Aotheod wandering around, or potentially the recent, I guess, yes, the indigenous people who lived in Gondor before it was Gondor, and maybe also some of the Numenorians. They like, they're all just like wandering around, they're doing their own thing, and then just suddenly like a whole huge, like there's like 50 of them, of giant walking trees, just turn up at your door and go,
"Oh, I don't suppose you've seen the
Entwives," and then you have a long conversation with this very, very weird old tree about where his wife has gone, and all of their wives have gone, and you're like, I don't really remember. I would, Prince of Hill says, the only person in the books who's outright horny is a tree. I would say potentially Eowyn. Sort of? Like, she definitely has, like, she's never open about it, I guess. Admittedly, again, I cannot remember because I really haven't read this book in a long time. Raglar says, by the way, whoever said Ents give you splinters, I disagree. Yes, I also disagree. I don't think they're actually, they obviously aren't actually trees, they just look like trees. Raklos is right. Grima is horny. Grima is a bit horny. Anyway.
Oh, but we made no songs about it, being content to chant their beautiful names when we thought of the Entwise. We believe that we may meet again in a time to come, and perhaps we shall find somewhere a land where we can live together and both be content. But it is foreboded that will only be when we have both lost all that we know now all that we now have. And it may well be that time is drawing near at last. For if Sauron of old destroyed the gardens, the enemy today seems likely to wither all the woods. There was an elvish song that spoke of this, or at least so I understand it. It used to be sung up and down the great river. It was never an Entish song, mark you. It would have been a very long song in Entish, but we know it by heart and can hum it now and again. This is how it runs in your tongue.
Now, yes, yeah, it honestly, it's, there's a sorry, Honeybee says we did make any songs about them, we just chanted their names. Okay, but just picture that. I mean, I don't know, it's very tender. It's very sweet as a concept. It's very sweet. It is sweet. But the image of them, and it's sad. It is sad. It's funny when Treebeard says it, but then when you think about it, it is actually very sad. They were all missing their wives very terribly. They were all missing them very terribly. Prince of Kalos says Bilbo. Bilbo is like, alright, horny. Ragnar says no, we're being serious, and Prince of Kalos says, as am I. Oh, where am I going to come down on in these lines? I think I will say that there is no definitive evidence that Bilbo writing a long, very dramatic poem about Aragorn is horny. But it is certainly possible. Prince Imrahil says, oh, and true, what about Faramir? Well, Faramir, I don't think he's ever, because we don't ever get, no, I'm so sorry, he does just fucking kiss her in the middle, at the top of, in front of the entire city. So I guess you could call that horny. Yeah. Little Pedro says, I think Eowyn's like side motivation is the horny, not the main thrust of her motivation. And then if they say thrust, yes, you did have to use that word, I know. Honeybee says, a bunch of trees standing in a circle swaying and saying, Sandra, Sandra, Sandra. Well, okay, that would be quite funny. But the thing is that, admittedly, Ent names are just long stories about them. So technically what they're doing is just every now and then standing and swaying and talking about the life of one of the Entwives. They're like like Treebeard would stand and then just recite Fimbrathil's entire life whenever he thought of her. And it would probably take him a very long time. So, yeah. Ragnar says, no, Treebeard does seem a bit horny, especially when he mentions the Ent Maidens. Yes, that is the one thing. Because he explicitly, makes it about appearances. It's not that he's calling them fair in an affectionate, soft way. He talks about them as Ent Maidens. He talks about them as being young, and then he says, I still thought they were fair, even though they were bent, and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, we are coming to the song, and unfortunately it is the only song that I remembered to think of, but hang on, what's this? Okay. Oh, bugger it all. Never mind. Yes. And also because again, I can't figure out how to overlay a different audio, a different video which has audio, but put it. I guess I could have put it behind, but anyway. Don't worry about it. We've also got some Treebeard art that one of my favourite Silmarillion artists did. Crocodile. It's linked and labelled. So we will go to the song and then we'll go back. So there's Rob Inglis. That's it.
The Ent sings. When spring unfolds the beechen leaf, and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream, and wind is on the brow, when stride is long, and breath is deep, and keen the mountain air, come back to me, come back to me, and say my land is fair. And the Entwife replies, when spring is come to garth and field, and corn is in the blade, when blossom like a shining snow is on the orchard laid, when shower and sun upon the earth with fragrance fill the air, I linger here and will not come, because my land is fair. So the Ent sings, when summer lies upon the world, and in a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves the dreams of trees unfold, when woodland halls are green and cool, and wind is in the west, come back to me, come back to me, and say my land is best. And the Entwife replies, when summer warms the hanging fruit, and burns the berry brown, when straw is gold, and ear is white, and harvest comes to town, when honey spills, and apple swells, though wind be in the west, I linger here beneath the sun, because my land is best. When wind comes the winter wild, that hill and wood shall slay, when trees shall fall and starless night devour the sunless day, when wind is in the deadly east, then in the bitter rain, I look for thee and call to thee, I'll come to thee again. When winter comes and singing ends, when darkness falls at last, when broken is the barren bough, and light and labour past, I'll look for thee and wait for thee until we meet again. Together we will take the road beneath the bitter rain. Together we will take the road that leads into the west, and far away we'll find a land where both our hearts may rest.
Yep. blah, blah, blah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, sorry. Honeybee said Rob Inglis does the entire unabridged reading of the whole Lord of the Rings. He sings all the songs and does voices too. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. Listen. Yes, and I also think he was, he up until Andy Serkis, he was the only one who'd ever done an unabridged version of the whole of Hobbit. I'm pretty sure that was the case. Anyway, yes, I decided that was he sounds great. He sounds very Tree Beardish. It works very well, and the art is very good. Croc Cluck, that was it. They very kindly allow me to use the art in the stream. Okay. I really like that song. There's the bit at the end, so it's written by the elves. So of course the elves had to add in that the Ents also want to go west, even though there's really they don't. They actually don't. They're fine, actually. You guys don't have to keep making it all about the west. They're okay with being here. It's all right. Yes, and the song, Racklos is right, the song does end with the literal apocalypse, so it's a lovely song, and it seems lovely, and, now, Clamavi de Profundis does a very good version of it, obviously, it's got, the various, but again, it is 8 minutes long, so, caution, but it's very good, they do a really good job, as always, so I would recommend going and listening to it, but 8 minutes seemed a lot to ask, you all to, just listen to one song. But yes, I did find that funny, and it's good because it allows me to fill in my elf nagging quota for this stream, even though we probably weren't going to get that much considering it is all about Ents today. But yeah, no, the elves are just like, even though this is a dreadful tragedy, it's a little, it's alright. The Ents obviously find it fine, but the elves are essentially writing a story, they're writing a song about a tragedy that didn't happen to them, and then they're making it about going west. When the Ents are just like, well, we'll find somewhere, I guess. Realistically speaking, what the Ents mean is they want to find a wood that's next to a field. That's really what they're saying. And surely that shouldn't be that hard to find. I'm sure they can figure out a way of doing it. Because they obviously did, because they went and visited them before. So it's not this the problem is that they can't find the Entwise. It's not that there is just nowhere to find, that they just... I suppose what they really mean is they want a place where they both can live happily together, which seems impossible, because... the Ents just don't like fruiting trees, apparently. They like big, knotty, thick-trunked trees. But, apple trees can get quite big. It's an odd distinction to make. Some cherry blossom trees are massive, with huge twisty knots in their, like, twisty knots for days. Like, you have to be so picky. Anyway, okay. It's a good song. It's a sweet song. I like the come back to me and say my land is best and my land is fair. It's very sweet. It has a nice longing to it. So I suppose the elves did a good job. A good enough job. I'll accept it. I'll let it slide. Treebeard ended his song.
Well, that is how it goes, he said. It is elvish, of course, light-hearted, quick-worded, and soon over. I dare say it is fair enough. But the Ents could say more on their side if they had time. Well, but now I'm going to stand up and take a little sleep. Where will you stand?
Oh, we usually lie down to sleep, said Mary. We shall be all right where we are.
Lie down to sleep,
said Treebeard.
Oh, why, of course you do. I was forgetting. Singing that song put me in mind of old times. Almost thought that I was talking to young Entings. I did. Well, you can lie on the bed. I am going to stand in the rain. Good night.
Merry and Pippin climbed onto the bed and curled up in the soft grass and fern. It was fresh and sweet-scented and warm. The lights died down and the glow of the trees faded, but outside, under the arch, they could see old Treebeard standing, motionless, with his arms raised above his head. I forgot he raised his arms above his head. I forgot he raised his arms above his head. I guess they must just like fix them. Like their joints must just fuse or fix in some way. I need to stop trying to anatomize Treebeard. It's okay. We'll it's fine if we don't know. It's fine. Oh God. Anyway, it's fine if we don't know. They woke to find a cool sun shining into the great court and onto the floor of the bay. Honeybee says, Treebeard standing in the rain with his arms raised. He knows what's up. He does. He does know what's up. He does. He's like the Ents really have a good thing going. Like there's some suspect stuff, but standing to sleep sounds wonderful. I love that idea. Having just a big home and the only bed you have is made of moss, like that idea too. Totally into it. Anyway. Shreds of high cloud were overhead, running on a stiff easterly wind. Treebeard was not to be seen, but while Merry and Pippin were bathing in the basin of the arch, they heard him humming and singing as he came up the path between the trees.
Home, home, good morning, Merry and Pippin, he boomed when he saw them. You sleep long. I have been many hundred strides already today. Now we will have a drink and go to Entmoot.
He poured them out 2 full bowls from the stone jar, but from a different jar. From a stone jar, but from a different jar. The taste was not the same as it had been the night before. It was earthier and richer, more sustaining and food-like, so to speak. While the hobbits drank, sitting on the edge of the bed and nibbling small pieces of elf cake, more because they felt that eating was a necessary part of breakfast than because they felt hungry, Treebeard stood, humming in Entish or Elvish or some strange tongue, and looking up at the sky. "Oh, where is Entmoot?" Pippin ventured to ask.
Oh, Entmoot, said Treebeard, turning around. It is not a place. It is a gathering of Ents, which does not happen often nowadays. But I have managed to make a fair number promise to come. We shall meet in the place where we have always met. Dingo men call it. It is away south from here. We must be there before noon.
Zitchy. Before long they set off. Treebeard carried the hobbits in his arms, as on the previous day. At the entrance to the court he turned to the right, stepped over the stream, and strode away southwards along the feet of great tumbled slopes where trees were scanty. Above these the hobbits saw thickets of birch and rowan, and between them dark, climbing pine woods. Soon Treebeard turned a little away from the hills and plunged into deep groves, where the trees were larger, taller, and thicker than any that the hobbits had ever seen before. For a while they felt faintly the sense of stifling which they had noticed when they first ventured into Fangorn, but it soon passed. Treebeard did not talk to them. He hummed to himself deeply and thoughtfully, but Merry and Pippin caught no proper words. It sounded like boom, 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 boom,
Boom, boom, da, da, boom.
And so on, with a constant change of note and rhythm. Now and again, they thought they had heard an answer, a hum or a quiver of sound that seemed to come out of the earth or from boughs above their heads, or perhaps from the boles of the trees, but Treebeard did not stop or turn his head to either side. It occurs to me also just right now that it would also be very funny. So Treebeard went to look for the Entwives in the Brownlands, but then they did go west. So that does mean that it was perfectly plausible that they would have met the just after the. Actually, no, that might not be true because I don't know when they came to look for the Entwives. But the idea of them like coming a little west and finding like Numenorian war camps and stuff, and the Numenorians are just like, what the hell? What in the bloody hell is this? What? Another one? A giant, terrifying creatures? No. But then they just want to know if they've they've found wives anywhere. Honeybee says, is Maethros' height ever confirmed? I want to see if he's as tall as Treebeard because that would be wild. Treebeard is 12 feet tall? 14 feet tall. And I don't think like the height, as far as heights go, I don't think we ever actually get a proper confirmation of what the Noldor elves' heights are. I know that 8 feet tall is a popular height to give Maethros, but I don't think we ever actually get a solid confirmation from Tolkien himself on his height. And anyway, I prefer to think of Maethros as at least 9 foot tall, but he's still not 14 foot tall. He's still not quite there. Anyway. Yeah, Sunnybee's like, men. Oh god, a troll of the woods, and hello, have you seen my wife? It's just very funny. It's just a very funny image, just like this tree wanders up and asks if you've seen his wife. Like, you've never seen this creature in your whole ass life. But do you know where my wife is? But we can't find her. I've lost her. I misplaced her. Anyway. They had been going for a while. They had been going for a long while. Pippin had tried to keep count of the Entstrides, but had failed, getting lost at about 3,000. Oh my goodness, well that's quite a fair way. When Treebeard began to slacken his pace. Suddenly he stopped, put the hobbits down, and raised his curled hands to his mouth so that they made a hollow tube. Then he blew, or called through them. A great whoom rang out, like a deep-throated horn in the woods, and seemed to echo from the trees. Far off there came, from several directions, a similar, whom. I need to save my voice for something. There was not an echo, but an answer. Treebeard now perched Merry and Pippin on his shoulders, and strode on again, every now and then, sending out another horn call, and each time the answers came louder and nearer. In this way, they came at last to what looked like an impenetrable wall of dark evergreen trees. Trees of a kind that the hobbits had never seen before. They branched out right from the roots, and were densely clad in dark glossy leaves, like thornless holly, and they bore many stiff, upright, flowered spikes, with large, shining, olive-coloured buds. Turning to the left, and skirting this huge hedge, Treebeard came in a few strides to a narrow entrance. Through it a worn path passed, and dived suddenly down a long, steep slope. The hobbits saw that they were descending into a great dingle, almost as round as a bowl, very wide and deep, crowned at the rim with the high dark evergreen hedge. It was smooth and grass-clad inside, and there were no trees except 3 very tall and beautiful silver birches that stood at the bottom of the bowl. 2 other paths led down into the dingle, from the west and from the east. Several Ents had already arrived. More were coming in More were coming in down from the other paths, and some were now following Treebeard as they drew near the hobbits. As they drew near, I need to slow down. As they drew near, the hobbits gazed at them. They had expected to see a number of creatures as much like Treebeard as one hobbit is alike to another, at any rate to a stranger's eye, and they were very much surprised to see nothing of the kind. The Ents were as different from one another as trees from trees, some as different as one tree is from another of the same name, but quite different growth and history, and some as different as one tree kind from another, as birch from beech, oak from fir. There were a few older Ents, bearded and gnarled like hale but ancient trees, though none looked as ancient as Treebeard, and there were tall, strong Ents, clean-limbed and smooth-skinned like forest trees in their prime, but there were no young Ents, no saplings. Altogether, there were about 24 standing on the wide grassy floor of the dingle, and as many more were marching in. At first Merry and Pippin were struck chiefly by the variety that they saw, the many shapes and colours, the differences in girth and height, and length of leg and arm, and in the number of toes and fingers, anything from 3 to 9. God, you've got to stop telling me about their toes! Tolkien, you've got to stop telling me about their toes! Yes, Honeybee makes a good point. We do have to pause and give our nod to the fact that Prince of Caldor says Tolkien really took the scene in Macbeth of Birnam Wood coming to Dunstanay and fucking ran with it. Yes. Tolkien. Lilith Hedgehog says love Tolkien being 100% literal with the walking woods. And Honeybee says Tolkien reading Macbeth. You call that walking trees? I'll give you walking trees. Yes. Yes, I understand it, because there are witches in that play, but you gonna tell me that the trees aren't actually walking? Miserable. Dreadful. Little Hedgehog says, ooh, sexy Ents, and after Raklos has said we have to know how many toes each Ent has, this is a terrible message that you must send into my chat. But anyway. Oh, excuse me. Yes, sorry, fingers and toes. Blah, blah, blah. A few seemed more or less related to Treebeard, and reminded them of beech trees or oaks, but there were other kinds. Some recalled the chestnut, brown-skinned Ents with large, splay-fingered hands and short, thick legs. Some recalled the ash, tall, straight, grey Ents with many-fingered hands and long legs. Some the fir, the tallest Ents, and others the birch, the rowan and the linden. But when the Ents all gathered round Treebeard, bowing their heads slightly, murmuring in their slow, musical voices, and looking long and intently at the strangers, then the hobbits saw that they were all of the same kindred, and all had the same eyes, not all so old or so deep as Treebeard's, but all with the same slow, steady, thoughtful expression, and the same green flicker. As soon as the whole company was assembled, standing in a wide circle around Treebeard, a curious and unintelligible conversation began. The Ents began to murmur slowly. First one joined, and then another, until they were all chanting together in a long, rising and falling rhythm, now louder on one side of the ring, now dying away there and rising to a great boom on the other side. Though he could not catch or understand any of the words, he supposed the language was Entish. Pippin found the sound very pleasant to listen to at first, but gradually his attention wavered. After a long time, and the chant showed no signs of slackening, he found himself wondering. Since Entish was such an unhasty language, whether they had yet got further than good morning, and if Treebeard was to call the roll, how many days it... Oh my goodness. Ugh, my brain's gone all to seed. Ugh. Let's have a drink. Have a drink. Calm your head. Okay. After a long time, and the chant showed no signs of slackening, He found himself wondering, since Entish was such an unhasty language, whether they had yet got further than good morning, and if Treebeard was to call the roll, how many days it would take to sing all their names. Oh, I wonder what the Entish is for yes or no, he thought, and he yawned. Treebeard was immediately aware of him.
Oh, hey, my Pippin, he said,
and the other Ents all stopped their chanting.
Oh, you are a hasty folk, I was forgetting. And anyway, it is wearisome listening to a speech you do not understand. So you may get down now. I have told your names to the Entmoot, and they have seen you, and they have agreed that you are not orcs, and that a new line shall be put in the old lists. We've got no further than that, but that is quick work for an Entmoot. You and May can stroll about in the dingle if you like. There is well of good water. If you need refreshing, away yonder in the north bank, there are still some words to speak before the moot really begins. I will come and see you again, and tell you how things are going.
He put the hobbits down. Before they walked away, they bowed low. This feat seemed to amuse the Ents very much, to judge by the tone of their murmurs and the flicker of their eyes, but they soon turned back to their own business. Merry and Pippin climbed up the path. I imagine they're like, oh my god, you're bending at the waist? How do you do that? That's such a good parlour trick. Yes! Yes, Cal! Yes! Cal says, what's this? An ancient being who takes the thoughts and feelings of younger races into account? Elves could never. Yes! It is true! And thank you for saying it. The elves could never. And Ents are just like yards and yards away, more valid than elves. I'm assuming Kaz is at work still, so he probably can't reply, which gives me a lot of power. Anyway. Blah, blah. But they soon turned back to their own business. Merry and Pippin climbed up the path that came in from the west, and looked through the opening in the great hedge. Long tree-clad slopes rose from the lip of the dingle, and away beyond them, above the fir trees at the furthest ridge, there rose sharp and white the peak of a high mountain. Southwards to their left, they could see the forest falling away down into the grey distance. There, far away, there was a pale green glimmer that Merry guessed to be a glimpse of the plains of Rohan. I wonder where Isengard is, said Pippin. I don't know quite where we are, said Merry, but that peak is probably Methradras, and as far as I can remember, the ring of Isengard lies in a fork or a deep cleft at the end of the mountains. It is probably down behind this great ridge. There seems to be a smoke or haze over there, left of the peak, don't you think? And what is Isengard like? Said Pippin. I wonder what Ents can do about it anyway. Well, so do I, said Merry. Isengard is a sort of ring of rocks, or hills, I think, with a flat space inside and an island, or a pillar of rock in the middle, called Orthanc. Saruman has a tower on it, and there is a gate, perhaps more than one, in the encircling wall, and I believe there is a stream running through it. It comes out of the mountains and flows on across the Gap of Rohan. It does not seem the sort of place for Ents to tackle, but I have an odd feeling about these Ents. Somehow I don't think they are quite as safe and, funny as they seem. They seem slow, queer, and patient, almost sad, and yet I believe they could be roused. If that happened, I would rather not be on the other side. Yes, said Pippin, I know what you mean, and there might be all the difference between an old cow sitting and thoughtfully chewing, and the bull charging, and the change might come suddenly. Well, I wonder if Treebeard will rouse them. I'm sure he means to try, but they don't like being roused. Treebeard got roused himself last night, and then bottled it up again. The hobbits turned back. The voices of the Ents were still rising and falling in their conclave. The sun had now risen high enough to look over the high hedge. It gleamed on the tops of the birches and lit the northward side of the dingle with a cool yellow light. There they saw a little glittering fountain. They walked along the rim of the great bowl at the feet of the evergreens. It was pleasant to feel cool grass about their toes again, and not be in a hurry, and then they climbed down to the gushing water. They drank a little, a clean, cold, sharp draught, and sat down on a mossy stone, watching the patches of sun on the grass and the shadows of the sailing clouds passing over the floor of the dingle. The murmur of the Ents went on. It seemed a very strange and remote place, outside their world, and far from everything that had ever happened to them. A great longing came over them for the faces and voices of their companions, especially for Frodo and Sam, and for Strider. See, this is why I don't think I was having not an argument. I was having a mild discussion with somebody about whether or not Merry and Pippin were friends with Boromir. I don't think they were, because they'd spent more time with Strider, and obviously they just, like, even though Boromir did, I think at this point they don't know that he's died for them. I think because they leave him, and because they get knocked out. I think Merry might know he died, but Pippin certainly doesn't, and I don't think they've discussed it. So, at this point, like, if they'd been friends, I feel like they would be thinking about Boromir here, but they don't. Yes, it's about the soul-crushing imagined. Yes, that is what it is about. I'm having a good time. But yeah, it's. I don't think they were they weren't friends. They were they were fond acquaintances. They weren't really friends. Anyway. Blah, 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 blah. Where did I get to? Oh dear. Yes, Frodo and for Strider. At last, there came a pause in the Ent voices, and looking up, they saw Treebeard coming towards them, with another Ent at his side. Oh, I have to decide what quick beam sounds like. Let me think. Okay.
Oh, here I am again, said Treebeard. Are you getting weary or feeling impatient, eh? Well, I am afraid that you must not get impatient yet. We have finished the first stage now, but I have still got to explain things to those that live a long way off, far from Isengard, and those that I could not get round to before the moot, and after that we shall have to decide what to do. However, deciding what to do does not take hence so long as going over all the facts and events that they have to make up their minds about. Still, it is no use denying that we shall be here a long time yet. A couple of days, very likely, so I have brought you a companion. He has an ant house nearby. Regolad is his elvish name. He says he has already made up his mind and does not need to remain at the moot. He is the nearest thing among us to a hasty ent. You ought to get on together. Goodbye.
Treebeard turned and left them. Regolad stood for some time surveying the hobbits solemnly, and they looked at him, wondering when he would show any signs of hastiness. He was tall, and seemed to be one of the younger Ents. He had smooth, shining skin on his arms and legs. His lips were ruddy, and his hair was grey-green. He could bend and sway like a slender tree in the wind. At last he spoke, and his voice, though resonant, was high and clearer than Treebeard's. Oh, okay. Maybe a rest I will have. Seven Stars, Seven Stones, it's kind of wild that they don't really find out Boromir dies for them until so much later. Yeah, it is. It is. But again, I do think Merry knew. I think Merry knew. Because he's awake longer. And then actually Seven Stars, Seven Stones goes, I think Pippin was maybe slightly more alert to Boromir than Merry. When he sees Faramir, it's like he reminded him of Boromir, whom he had liked from the first. Well, oh, sorry, I skipped over it. Liz Hedgehog says it seems like Pippin would definitely have admired Aragorn's dramatic vibe rather than Boromir's more laid-back chill. It's difficult because certainly Pippin is the one who comments the most about Boromir. So Pippin says there's one particular bit which is maybe we can add into maybe the a little bit horny when Boromir picks Pippin up and carries him, and Pippin marvels at his strength and the great branch-like arms or something like that, which it's quite sweet. So Pippin certainly I think is more aware of Boromir, but I don't actually think. I think Merry is just in general a more buttoned-up hobbit, and there is one moment where when Hjörgun, is that how I'm going to pronounce? Is it Hjörgun? Something like that. Anyway, Hjörgun, when he arrives and is talking, when he arrives and with the message with the red arrow, Pippin has this heart-crushing moment where he turns and looks and he thinks he's seen Boromir because Hjörgun looks so like him. I think it's more because the men of Gondor have a specific look to them. Again, begging you, if they're so iconic and you turn and you look at them like, oh my god, of course, then they must be ethnically different. Anyway, sorry. But I also like to imagine that actually Hjörgun and Boromir are somewhat related. But Merry is like, there's a moment where I think it's like he says, like, he nearly cries out with and he cries a bit because he sees him and thinks he looks so like Boromir, and then realizes that it isn't. It's a crushing moment, I have to say. We're actually gonna get to it. No, it's the next book. But it's a real crushing moment, and it's not even like Hjörgun lives that long anyway. So I'm assuming I shouldn't be spoiling the book like this, but anyway, for anyone who hasn't actually read it yet. But yeah, so I think Merry is more buttoned up, but but whenever he actually he does think about Boromir. There are moments when he thinks about him, and he and I suppose he certainly. Yes, they definitely liked him. They definitely liked him. It's just they didn't feel like when somebody says friends, I assume that to be a person you would both like to be around and talk to, but also someone who you are interested in beyond just their their basic conversation. You're interested in their life and you want to help them and you support them and stuff, which both Merry and Pippin and Boromir don't show any signs of that, other than when Boromir dies for them. But again, I'm pretty sure that's more because he was ordered to go and save them, and then he kind of got caught in a position where really he didn't have we don't know if Boromir would have chosen to specifically sacrifice himself to save the hobbits. He probably would have, but we don't know. And it's a little bit more complicated, but yeah. Anyway. Quick Beam's voice. Resonant, and though resonant was higher and clearer than Treebeard's.
My friend, let us go for a walk, he said. I am Bregalad, and that is Quickbeam in your language, but it is only a nickname, of course. They have called me that ever since I said yes to an elder ent before he had finished his question. Also, I drink quickly and go about while some are still wetting their beards. Or come with me. He reached down 2 shapely arms and gave a long-fingered hand to each hobbit of the hobbits. Oh! I thought he was going to pick them up, but he's holding their hands. Oh no! Oh no, that might be too sweet for me. Oh, he's just holding their hands because he's so long. He's so long and he's holding their hands. Oh my goodness, okay. On we go. All that day they walked about in the woods with him, singing and laughing, for Quickbeam often laughed. He laughed if the sun came out from behind a cloud, he laughed if they came upon a stream or spring, then he stopped and splashed his feet and head with water. He laughed sometimes at some sound or whisper in the trees. Whenever he saw a rowan tree, he halted a while with his arms stretched out, and sang and swayed as he sang. At nightfall he brought them to his ent house, nothing more than a mossy stone set upon turves under a green bank. Rowan trees grew in a circle about it, and there was water, as in all ent houses, a spring bubbling out from the bank. They talked for a while, as darkness fell on the forest. Not far away the voices of the Entmoot could be heard still going, but now they seemed deeper and less leisurely, and every now and again one great voice would rise in a high quickening music while all the others died away. But beside them Bregalad spoke gently in their own tongue, almost whispering, and they learned that he belonged to Skinbark's people, and the country where they had lived had been ravaged. That seemed to the hobbits quite enough to explain his hastiness, at least at the matter of orcs. "We were rowan trees in my home," said Bregalad softly and sadly. "Rowan trees that took root when I was an enting many years in the quiet of the world. The oldest were planted by the Ents to try and please the Entwives, but they looked at them and smiled and said that they knew where whiter blossom and richer fruit were growing. Yet there were no trees of all that race, the people of the rose, that are so beautiful to me. And all these trees grew and grew, till the shadow of each was like a green hall, and their red berries in the autumn were a burden and a beauty and a wonder. Birds used to flock there. I like birds, even when they chatter, and the rowan has enough and to spare. But the birds became unfriendly and greedy, and tore at the trees, and threw the fruit down, and did not eat it. Then the orcs came with axes, and cut down my trees. I came and called them by their long names, but they did not quiver, they did not hear or answer. They lay dead." Here's the song that I forgot to learn, but I just realised that there's a quest in Lord of the Rings Online, and the thing goes, "O Orofane, O Orofarne, Lasemista, and Carnimir, that's it. O rowan fair, upon your hair how white the blossom lay. O rowan mine, let's try doing it in his voice actually. O rowan mine, I saw you shine upon a summer's day. Your rind so bright, your leaves so slight, your voice so cool and soft. Upon your head how golden red the crown you bore aloft. O rowan dead, upon your head your hair is dry and grey, your crown is spilled, your voice is still for ever and a day. O Orofani, Lasemista, Carnimirie." The hobbits fell asleep to the sound of the soft singing of Bregalad,
that seemed to lament in many tongues the fall of trees that he had loved. Anyway, yes, there's a blah. Quick Beam gives you a quest in Lord of the Rings Online to go and find the seeds of Orofani and Lasamista and Carnimirie, and find them and plant them in good places around Isengard after it's been destroyed, so that new green growth will start there, and it's very sweet and very sad. It's very lovely. Anyway, the next day they spent almost. They also spent in his company, but they did not go far from his house. Houses in inverted commas. Most of the time they sat silent under the shelter of the bank, for the wind was colder and the clouds closer and greyer. There was little sunshine, and in the distance the voices of the Ents at the moot still rose and fell, sometimes loud and strong, sometimes low and sad, sometimes quickening, sometimes slow and solemn as a dirge. A second night came, and still the Ents held conclave under hurrying clouds and fitful stars. The third day broke, bleak and windy. At sunrise the Ents' voices rose to a great clamour and then died down again. As the morning wore on, the wind fell, and the air grew heavy with expectancy. The hobbits could see that Bregalad was now listening intently, although to them, down in the dell of his Ent house, the sound of the moot was faint. The afternoon came, and the sun, going west towards the mountains, set out long yellow beams between the cracks and fissures of the clouds. Suddenly they were aware that everything was very quiet. The whole forest stood in listening silence. Of course the Ent voices had stopped. What did that mean? Bregalad was standing up, erect and tense, looking back towards northwards towards the Durndingle. Then with a crash came a great ringing shout. Rah, hoo, rah. The trees quivered and bent as if a gust had struck them. There was another pause, and then a marching music began like solemn drums, and above the rolling beats the booms were welled voices singing high and strong. Oh, again with the songs, but this is not really a song.
We come with roll of drum, ta-run-da-run-da-run-da-rum.
The Ents were coming. Ever nearer and louder rose their song.
We come with horn and drum, ta-roo-na-roo-na-roo-na-rum.
Bregalad picked up the hobbits and strode from his house. Before long they saw the marching line approaching. The Ents were swinging along with great strides down the slope towards them. Treebeard was at their head, and some 50 followers were behind him, 2 abreast, keeping step with their feet and beating time with their hands upon their flanks. As they drew near, the flash and flicker of their eyes could be seen.
Boom! Here we come, with a boom! Here we come at last!
Called Treebeard, when he caught sight of Bregalad and the hobbits.
Come, join the moot! We are off! We are off to Isengard!
To Isengard! The Ents cried in many voices.
To Isengard!
Oh, is that also a song? Damn it, there's also another song. I'm so sorry. This was a cool song too. It's like a war song. God damn it. Anyway.
To Isengard, through Isengard. Oh, sorry. To Isengard, though Isengard be ringed and barred with doors of stone, though Isengard be strong and hard, as cold as stone and bare as bone, we go to war to hew the stone and break the door. For bowl and bow are burning now, the furnace roars, we go to war, to land of gloom with tramp of doom, with roll of drum we come, to Isengard, with doom we come, with doom we come, with doom we come. So they sang as they marched southwards. That's a fucking banger of a song. Damn it, I really wish I'd looked. I cannot be expected to have forethought for any kind of presence of mind. Bregalad, his eyes shining, swung into the line beside Treebeard. The old Ent now took the hobbit's back and set him on his shoulders again, and so they rode proudly at the head of the singing company with beating hearts and heads held high. Though they had expected something to happen eventually,
They were amazed at the sudden change that had come over the Ents. It seemed now as sudden as the bursting of a flood that had been long held back by a dike. Ragnar says, next time I'm going to warn you about the exact number of upcoming songs and where they are. Thank you so much. That would be very appreciated. You don't have to tell me where they are. Just tell me how many there are, and I'll look. I'll find them. It's all good. Thank you so much for your for your incredibly appreciated efforts, Ragnar. It's very good. Okay. Yes. Well, the Ents made up their minds rather quickly after all, didn't they? Pippin ventured to say after some time, when for a moment the singing paused and only the beating of hands and feet was heard.
Quickly, said Treebeard. Yes, indeed, quicker than I expected. Indeed, I had not seen them roused like this for many an age. We Ents do not like being roused, and we never are roused unless it is clear to us that our trees and our lives are in great danger. That has not happened in this forest since the wars of Sauron and the men of the sea. It is the orc work, the wanton hewing room, without even the bad excuse of feeding the fires that has so angered us, and the treachery of our neighbour, who should have helped us. Wizards ought to know better. They do know better. There is no curse in Elvish, Rentish, or the tongues of men bad enough for such treachery. Down with Saruman.
Will you really break the doors of Isengard? Asked Mary.
Oh, well, we could, you know. You do not know, perhaps, how strong we are. Maybe you have heard of trolls. They are mighty strong, but trolls are only counterfeits, made by the enemy of the darkness in mockery of Ents as orcs were of elves. We are stronger than trolls. We are made of the bones of the earth. We can split stone like the roots of trees, only quicker, far quicker, if our minds are roused. If we are not hewn down or destroyed by fire or blast of sorcery, we could split Isengard into splinters and crack its walls into rubble.
Oh, but Saruman will try to stop you, won't he?
Yes, that is so. I have not forgotten it. Indeed, I have thought long about it. But you see, many of the Ents are younger than I am by many lives of trees. They are all roused now, and their mind is all on one thing: breaking Isengard. But they will start thinking again before long. They will cool down a little when we take our evening drink. That is a thirst we all have, but let them march now and sing. We have a long way to go, and there is time ahead for thought. It is something to have started.
Treebeard marched on, singing with the others for a while, but after a time his voice died to a murmur and fell silent again. Pippin could see that his old brow was wrinkled and knotted. At last he looked up, and Pippin could see a sad look in his eyes. Sad, but not unhappy. There was a light in them, as if the green flame had sunk deeper into the dark wells of his thoughts.
Of course it is likely enough, my friends, he said slowly, likely enough that we are going to our doom, the last march of the Ents. But if we stayed at home and did nothing, doom would find us anyway, sooner or later. That thought has long been growing in our hearts, and that is why we are marching now. It was not a hasty resolve. Now, at least, a march, the last march of the Ents may be worth a song. Why, he sighed, we may help the other people before we pass away. Still, I should have liked to see the songs come true about the Entwise. I should dearly have liked to see Fenbrechiel again. Oh, but there, my friends, songs like trees bear fruit only in their own time and their own mind, and sometimes they are withered away untimely.
Oh. Oh. I am getting way more emotional about Treebeard than I remembered. Way more emotional. It's last march of the Ents, but they've got to do it. They've got to try. Oh, it's really tender. It's really sweet. Oh gosh. Oh, Treebeard. I forgot how much I liked you. What a good character you are. What a good character you are. Oh my goodness. Funny, Little Patrick says that is a badass song. I really want to attack Isengard now. Yeah, I know, same. And, I mean, it's a general, constant wish, but, yeah. Honeybee says, yes, they do know better. Hold Saruman accountable for his actions. Yes! Yes, Treebeard! Hold wizards accountable for their actions. Oh, we finally, in the walking video, we've finally gotten to Fangorn, so I guess that's a good start. Honeybee also says, gonna have to listen to the March of the Ents now. Oh god, I love Ents. Oh, Treebeard. Yeah. He's good. He's good, I agree. The Ents went striding on at a great pace. They had descended into a long fold of the land that fell away southward. Now they began to climb up and up onto the high western ridge. The woods fell away, and they came to scattered groups of birch, and then to bare slopes where only a few gaunt pine trees grew. The sun sank behind the dark hill back in front. The dark hill back in front. Grey dusk fell. Pippin looked behind. The number of Ents had grown, or what was happening? Where the dim bare slopes that they had crossed should lie, he thought he saw groves of trees. But they were moving. Could it be that the trees of Fangorn were awake, and the forest was rising, marching over the hills to war? He rubbed his eyes, wondering if sleep and shadow had deceived him, but the great grey shapes moved steadily onward. There was a noise like wind in many branches. The Ents were drawing near the crest of the ridge now, and all song had ceased. Night fell, and there was silence. Nothing was to be heard save a faint quiver of the earth beneath the feet of the Ents, and a rustle, the shade of a whisper as of many drifting leaves. At last they stood upon the summit, and looked down into a dark pit. The great cleft of the end of the mountains, Nan Kuranir, the valley of Saruman.
Night lies over Isengard,
said Treebeard. Oh my goodness! I can't believe we got all the way through that whole chapter despite me reading so slowly as Treebeard. So we are now on to chapter 5, The White Rider. And, let's see. Okay, well let's read like 2 more pages. But I don't want to see Aragorn. I don't want to see Gandalf yet. Don't want to see Gandalf yet. I'm not ready. We don't want to see him yet. I've had enough of Gandalf. Not yet. Not just yet. We'll get 2 pages in. Oh god, I've got to remember everyone else's voices now. Oh. I've been so deep in Ents for such a long time. There. What was Gimli's voice? Gimli's voice has changed so much over this whole stream. It must be incredibly confusing to everyone else, including me. My bones are chilled, said Gimli, flapping his arms and stamping his feet. Day had come at last. At dawn the companions had made such breakfast as they could. Now, in the growing light, they were getting ready to search the ground again for signs of the hobbits. And do not forget that old man, said Gimli. I should be happier if I could see the print of a boot. Why would that make you happy? Said Legolas. Because an old man with feet that can leave marks might be no more than he seemed, answered the dwarf. Well, maybe, said the elf. But a heavy boot might leave no print here. The grass is deep and springy. Well, that would not baffle a ranger, said Gimli. A bent blade is enough for Aragorn to read. But I do not expect him to find any traces. It was an evil phantom of Saruman that we saw last night. I am sure of it, even under the light of the morning. His eyes are looking out on us from Fangorn even now, maybe. That is likely enough, said Aragorn. Yet I am not sure. I am thinking of the horses. You said last night, Gimli, that they were scared away, but I did not think so. Did you hear them, Legolas? Did they sound to you like beasts in terror? Oh, no, said Legolas. I heard them clearly, but for the darkness and our own fear I should have guessed that they were beasts wild with some sudden gladness. They spoke as horses will when they meet a friend that they have long missed. I am vindicated! I am vindicated! They were never afraid! They were never afraid! Not once. They just went to see Shadowfax. There was no fear on them. So again, was it Gandalf or was it Saruman? Let's keep reading. And I'm pretty sure it was Saruman. I'm pretty sure it was Gandalf. I'm pretty sure. But it might not have been. Anyway, okay. Yeah, they spoke as horses will when they meet a friend that they have long missed. So I thought, said Aragorn, but I cannot read the riddle unless they return. Come, the light is growing fast. Let us look first and guess later. We should begin here, near to our own camping ground, searching carefully all about and working up the slope towards the forest. To find the hobbits is our errand, whatever we may think of our visitor in the night. If they escaped by some chance, then they must have hidden in the trees, or they would have been seen. If we can find nothing here and the eaves of the wood, then we will make a last search upon the battlefield and among the ashes. But there is little hope there. The horsemen of Rohan did their work too well. For some time the companions crawled and groped upon the ground. The tree stood mournfully above them, its dry leaves now hanging limp and rattling in the chill easterly wind. Aragorn moved slowly away. I've got Gandalf on the brain. Ragnar says it still wasn't Gandalf. He was nearby and called Shadowfax. Prince Imrahil says, I think we never figure it out in the end. Honeybee says something else for us to argue about in Discord. Yes, it's true. Ragnar says Gandalf denies it was him, and then the Hedgehog makes the good point. He would deny it though, for the mystery. He would deny it. And I also think it's plausible that there's a while where Gandalf doesn't necessarily remember the things that he does, because at this point he's in a strange transitionary period between actually being in Middle-earth and being back in Valinor. So, and he forgets quite a lot of things, if I remember rightly. So I feel like it would be possible for Gandalf to do it and then forget. But again, I actually do think also he could just not be telling them, because again, Gandalf is totally happy to not tell people things, if it serves his purposes. Anyway, yes, he came. Aragorn moved slowly away. He came to the ashes of the watchfire near the riverbank, and then began to retrace the ground back towards the knoll where the battle had been fought. Suddenly he stooped and bent low with his face almost to the grass. Then he called to the others. They came running up. I can't read that line without. There was a wonderful comic that somebody did, which was just so funny of Aragorn just like suddenly plastering him like he's just walking and totally normal, and then suddenly he's just plastering himself to the ground, and his eye is like really wide, like cartoonishly wide, and like his pupil is like a milli-inch, like a centimeter close to a grass blade that's like slightly bent. It's just so funny to me still. Ragnar says he's on the ground again, lads. Yes, I know. Ragnar also says they say Saruman came there himself to see how the hunt for the hobbits is going. We'll get there. We'll see. So I'm glad someone else is here to defend Kaz's opinion. Here, at last, we find news, said Aragorn. He lifted up a broken leaf for them to see, a large pale leaf of golden hue, now fading and turning brown. Here is a malorn leaf of Lorien, and there are small crumbs on it, and a few more crumbs in the grass. And see, there are some pieces of cut cord lying nearby. Oh, and here is a knife to cut them. And here's the knife that cut them, said Gimli. He stooped and drew out of a tussock, into which some heavy foot had trampled it, a short, jagged blade, the haft from which it had been snapped was beside it. Well, it was an orc weapon, he said, holding it gingerly and looking with disgust at the carved handle. It had been shaped like a hideous head with squinting eyes and leering mouth. Well, here is the strangest riddle that we have found yet, exclaimed Legolas. A bound prisoner escapes, both from the orcs and the surrounding horsemen. He then stops, while still in the open, and cuts his bonds with an orc knife. But how and why? For if his legs were tied, how did he walk? And if his arms were tied, how did he use the knife? And if neither were tied, why did he cut the cords at all? Being pleased with his skill, he then sat down, and quickly ate some whey bread. That at least is enough to show that he was a hobbit without the malorn leaf. After that, I suppose, he turned his arms into wings and flew away, singing into the trees. It should be easy to find him. We need only wings ourselves. There is sorcery right here right enough, said Gimli. What was that old man doing? What have you to say, Aragorn, to the reading of Legolas? Can you better it? Maybe I could, said Aragorn, smiling. There are some other signs here at hand that you have not considered. I agree that the prisoner was a hobbit, and must have either legs or hands free before he came here. I guess that it was hands, because the riddle then becomes easier, and also because, as I read the marks, he was carried to this point by an orc. Blood was spilled here, a few paces away, orc blood. There are deep prints of hooves all about this spot, and signs that a heavy thing was dragged away. The orc was slain by a horseman, and later his body was hauled to the fire. The hobbit was not seen. He was not in the open, for it was night, and he still had his elven cloak. He was exhausted and hungry, and it is not to be wondered at that, when he had cut his bonds with the knife of his fallen enemy, he rested and ate a little before he crept away. But it is a comfort to know that he had some lembas in his pocket, even though he ran away without gear or pack. That, perhaps, is like a hobbit. I say he, though I hope and guess that both Merry and Pippin were here together. There is, however, nothing to show that for certain. And how do you suppose that either of our friends came to a hand free? Asked Gimli. I do not know how it happened, answered Aragorn, nor do I know why an orc was carrying them away. Not to help them to escape, we may be sure. Nay, rather, I think that I now begin to understand a matter that has puzzled me from the beginning. Why, when Boromir had fallen, were the orcs content with the capture of Merry and Pippin? They did not seek out the rest of us, nor attack our camp, but instead they went with all speed towards Isengard. Did they suppose that they had captured the ring-bearer and his faithful comrade? I think not. Their masters would not dare to give such plain orders to orcs, even if they knew so much themselves. They would not speak openly of them of the ring. They are not trusty servants, but I think the orcs have been commanded to capture hobbits,
alive at all costs. An attempt was made to slip out with the precious prisoners before the battle. Treachery perhaps, likely enough with such folk. Some large and bold orc may have been trying to escape with the prize alone for his own ends. There, that is my tale. Others might be devised, but on this we may count in any case. One at least of our friends escaped. It is our task to find him and help him before we return to Rohan. We must not be daunted by Fangorn, since need drove him into that dark place. Oh, I do not know which daunts me more, Fangorn or the thought of the long road through Rohan on foot, said Gimli. Well, then let us go into the forest, said Aragorn. It was not long before Aragorn found fresh signs. At one point, near the bank of the Entwash, he came upon footprints, hobbit prints, but too light for much to be made of them. Then again, beneath the hole of a great tree on the very edge of the wood, more prints were discovered. The earth was bare and dry, and did not reveal much. One hobbit, at least, stood here for a while and looked back, and then he turned away into the forest, said Aragorn. Well, then we must go in too, said Gimli. But I do not like the look of this Fangorn, and we were warned against it. I wish the chase had led anywhere else.
I do not think the wood feels evil, whatever tales may say, said Legolas. He stood under the eaves of the forest, stooping forward, as if he was listening, and peering with wide eyes into the shadows. No, it is not evil, or what evil is in it is far away. I catch only the faintest echoes of dark places where the hearts of the trees are black. There is no malice near us, but there is watchfulness and anger.
Well, it has no cause to be angry with me, said Gimli. I have done it no harm.
Well, that is just as well, said Legolas, but nonetheless it has suffered harm. There is something happening inside, or going to happen. Do you not feel the tenseness? It takes my breath.
I feel the air is stuffy, said the dwarf. This wood is lighter than Mirkwood, but it is musty and shabby.
Oh, it is old, very old, said the elf. So old that I almost I feel young again, as I have not felt since I journeyed with you children. It is old and full of memory. I could have been happy here, if I had come in days of peace.
Well, I dare say you could, snorted Gimli. You are a wood elf. Anyway, though elves of any kind are strange folk, yet you comfort me. Where you go, I will go. But keep your bow ready to hand, and I will keep my axe loose in my belt. Or not for those trees, he added hastily, looking up at the tree under which they stood. I do not wish to meet that old man at unawares without an argument ready to hand. That is all. Let us go.
An argument ready to hand, I love that. I like an argument ready to hand. Okay, we're gonna stop there because I'm just not ready for Gandalf. I'm just not ready for Gandalf again. Yes, as Ragnar says, famous romantic quotes. Yes, it's very tender. You're a wood elf anyway, though elves of any kind are strange folk. Yet you comfort me. Where you go, I will go. But keep your bow ready to hand. Oh, it's sweet. It's sweet. They're good friends. It's so sweet that they became good friends in Lothlorien, despite the fact that it is entirely because Gimli, Legolas was like, oh, you like elves? That means that you're acceptable to me now. But yes, we're going to stop there. I'm not ready for Gandalf, and we'll deal with him later. We'll deal with him in the next stream. Ah, yes, that was a nice, peaceful stream. And none of us mentioned the unmentionable in the chat, so well done, everybody. And I did forget how much I liked Treebeard. And I did forget, he's very sweet, he's very conscientious. He's like, oh, well, you're not as you're hastier than we are. You live at a faster pace than we do, and I understand that, and so I'm going to try and accommodate you. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. It's barely even patronizing as well, which is surprising. When you think of how patronizing the elves are always, as Legolas literally just was, calling both Gimli and Aragorn children. He's been wondering, this bastard has been wandering around calling, like, making snarky comments, singing at rivers, and making jokes on when they're all about to die on Cathras, and he has the fucking nerve to be like, oh, I feel so old around you people. You're all so young. It just makes me feel old and wizened. I just can't bear it. You're all such babies. And it's just like, it's a bit, as if Legolas hasn't been, like, the most childish one out of all of them this whole time. Like, even Pippin has, like, generally been, like, I suppose the one bit where he did, throw a stone down the well was a little much, but other than that, Legolas has been so childish. I still can't. It's, oh, you children, I feel so old. You make me feel so old. Dreadful elf. All elves are the same. But Gimli and he are in love, so it's okay. I can cope with him. But yes, alright then. I think that's where we're stopping. Thank you all again for coming. Lovely having you. And good night, Prince Immerhills, and it's a good time for me to stop, certainly. Where we go? We will try again for Friday, I think. We'll try for Friday, and see how that goes. Yes, alright. Night, everybody. Oh, well, actually, if someone could stay behind and tell me when I say now, so that I don't cut too much off the thing. Actually, it should be alright. I think, yeah, because our drop frames have gone back down now, so it should be okay. Thank you so much, Honeybee.